I guess before we start, I, as usual, should take this time to clear up mistakes from other videos because, as you know, when people say reviews on the internet, they may not always be perfect the first time.
Very true.
I had no idea what was going on with the flashbacks in After Earth. I had no idea who that woman was, so I assumed it was like Jaden's mom, despite the fact that Sophie Okonedo was his mom.
Mm-hmm.
So my mind just jumped right to maybe Cypher got remarried. Apparently, that was Jaden's sister that was being killed in those flashbacks.
One that was like Narful by the Garthog?
According to other reviews, but I don't...
Oh.
Unless I really, really spaced out, I don't ever remember that being established.
Like you said, there was a lot of establishing things that were said in the first beginning of the movie.
Yeah.
But I don't remember any of it either.
That's pretty much it. Which shows that I must be good at this, because whenever I have to correct myself, it's usually only one time.
Yeah. It's coming from the person that didn't even want to do this in the first place.
Well, you know, I'm sure there's, you know, douchebags out there. They're just quiet. Well, let's go into what is apparently supposed to be, like, a magnificent hit this weekend from out of nowhere.
Yeah, but it's with the wrong crowd.
Yeah, apparently Twitter is, like, overflowing with everybody talking about this movie.
There's a hashtag about what would happen if it was real and stuff like that.
Yeah. It's their, the advertisement and the setup remind me so much of District 9.
Yeah, the poster especially.
About how they take something that's totally fictitious but somehow make it extremely realistic to the point that people, like, it becomes a huge hullabaloo.
Gotta be really happy that there's people that haven't watched this movie and got ideas from it.
I was actually sitting in the theater nervous, wondering what was going through people's heads. Like,
yeah.
Some dumbass in the audience just thinking, you know, I wonder how much better I'd feel if I just murdered everyone in this room. Every time the door opened like 10 times.
Yeah.
And I was just...
That uneasy feeling.
I just sensed that there was a person in one of those goddamn masks with a gun coming in.
Yeah.
I actually plotted in my head a few times how I was going to get to the exit.
It helps I work there since
like,
I know how to get to places most people don't.
It's like the way everybody was plotting their exit when they saw The Dark Knight Rises.
Yeah.
Wasn't too soon to make that comment, was it?
Yeah. Well.
Well, anyway,
Gangster Squad trailer too.
Yeah.
Especially.
So, there's actually more to the setup than just what the trailer lets on. Like, the trailer just sets up, you know, it's 12 hours from 7 to 7. And all emergency stuff is cut off.
But there's a lot, like you said, there's more to it than that. There's actually rules to it, technically.
They make this big deal about it on the radio, like they have the DJ asking, what's your purge plan, which is, are you gonna go out and kill somebody, or are you gonna lock yourself in your house? And people just openly talk about it on the radio, like he says, hey, what's your purge plan? And this deep voice just comes on and says, I'm gonna murder my boss.
Yeah, but before the purge starts, why don't they just go cuff that guy and throw him in a squad car? That's intent right there. I guess that's not how the purge works.
Yeah, I would say, yeah. The way the movie sets it up, you see, the thing is you let yourself know if you're an ally by leaving these blue flowers out in your yard that lets you know you support the purge.
It's like leaving your light out on Halloween. That's exactly what it is.
And
I support murder and mayhem one night a week.
Basically, that keeps you safe because the people who support the people who don't support the purge and are considered, I wrote down their exact words, non-contributing members of society.
Yeah. And
those are the ones that are getting offed. Well, the trouble is if you do anything, like, I think this is why people can openly talk about it on the radio, is pretty much, if you get in the way of somebody purging, that, like, messes up the whole thing.
Yeah.
So,
that makes you a target immediately as well.
Which goes into, obviously you see in the trailer, the guy who's literally just credited as the Bloody Stranger.
Yeah.
Is running through the streets and he's screaming for help. And Ethan Hawke's kid, they're like this. I should back up for a second and talk about them as a family.
Yeah.
For this to make sense. It's clear that Ethan Hawke thinks he's leading like this perfect life, but both his kids really resent the whole Purge thing, which he is a massive supporter of, to the point that he sold everybody on the block their security. But you know, the kid has the son has, like, you know, the moral problems. The girl just wants to, you know, bang her boyfriend upstairs, but she seems against it also to an extent.
She's underage, but it's never really mentioned how underage she is.
The son, though, is like always bringing up, like, he has all these questions as to why, and he even asks them if they would do it, and Ethan Hawke says they're like shocked. Like, even his wife seems shocked when he says, "Well, you know, if it came to that, yeah, me and your mother would go out and kill somebody." And which is funny that his wife recoils, because his wife is Lena Headey from Game of Thrones, who was the villain in Dread.
Oh, yeah?
This is the woman that put people on the slow-mo drug and then skinned them alive and then threw them over 200 stories. But anyway, so in a way they lock themselves in, but the kid, you know, sees Ethan Hawke put the code in, so he knows the security code, which is bad news. Because
yeah, it always is.
Little Mr. Morals lets the guy in.
Him and Timmy.
But it turns out that we'll get to Timmy in a second.
I figured you would.
But it turns out that these freaky-ass people who saw the strangers one too many times...
Yeah.
Come to the door, and they know who he is, because he's pretty much famous for selling everybody on the pluck security. Because he's known for being a massive supporter of the Purge, so this guy says, you know, you're such a supporter of the Purge, you need to realize that you got to give us this guy so we can purge, and if you don't, we're going to purge on him and your whole family. And we have the technology to tear down your security.
Technology is basically putting a winch, using a truck to pull the door off.
Yeah, his way of getting to security is basically by bringing in about 10 more people.
Yeah.
We don't know, like...
We don't know anything about these people at all.
Apparently he's like this scholar or something.
Yeah, he was dressed like one of the villains in PCU.
But, there's a problem, and the problem is that everybody knew this when they saw the trailer, which is you've got this fantastic setup.
Oh yeah.
And the problem is they don't really use that completely to their advantage, because that setup could be a whole movie.
Oh yeah,
that's
easily.
Completely original. Like, instead of staying in the house, take the cameras outside and see what's happening during the Purge everywhere. Like, they do show security during the beginning credits. It's a montage of security footage from Purges that have been happening in different places. Like, we see somebody getting gunned down in New York, and then somebody getting, like, raped in California or whatever.
Yeah.
But that big setup is actually the setup for a pretty basic plot that we've seen before.
Yeah.
By the end of this movie, like, the last half hour is a direct copy of Straw Dogs.
Yeah. That was mentioned numerous times in a lot of different reviews I've read.
All the way from the first half of the movie, Ethan Hawke is, like, alarmingly optimistic and happy.
Yep.
Like, absolutely nothing can bother him. And he is, like, he's got the clean shaven. And then by the end of this movie, he's just, like, killing everyone. Like, he just goes off. But yeah, the end, it's so much like Straw Dogs, it's almost, I wouldn't say plagiarism, but it's
close.
Yeah. all the way down to Alexander Skarsgård could have even played the guy, the main masked guy.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm aware of the Peckinpah movie with Dustin Hoffman, but I don't really give a fuck what anybody says. Rod Lurie's remake in 2011
excellent film.
Was a lot more memorable and less meandering than the Peckinpah movie. I'm not a Peckinpah fan at all. So anyway, some more problems. We'll get to Timmy now.
Okay.
There's this robot. It's not really a robot, but it's a camera that the son has put inside. It looks like a baby doll that was melting, and then he attached the upper half of its body to a remote control car.
It's Big Baby from Toy Story 3.
Yeah.
It's exactly what it is with the Terminator's eye.
Yeah, it's like if Sid had gotten a hold of the Big Baby from Toy Story 3.
There you go. That's a good idea.
And he, makes it move around and just record shit, which of course is going to be important later. But the thing that was annoying was the way it was set up, which was we see that it's kind of, you can tell when we're seeing things from Timmy's perspective.
It's very grainy.
Well, anyway, we see, it's like going through like it's some kind of spirit or something, and then it comes up behind Lena Headey, and then it scares her, and then we see what it is. And that's when I was thinking, Tarantino's my favorite director, so pretty much every time I say you could have done it better, I reference a Tarantino movie that does it better.
It's a plug for next month.
In this case, it's going to be From Dusk Till Dawn.
Okay.
It's kind of a bad example because From Dusk Till Dawn is more of an action movie than a horror movie, but regardless, if you're watching the first half of From Dusk Till Dawn, you don't even know that the second half is a vampire movie. There's absolutely nothing that leads up to it.
No, not at all.
If you want a vampire movie and From Dusk Till Dawn, you have to be patient. The trouble is The Purge wants to be a horror movie, and it's not willing to wait for it.
No.
It's nice to have that. There's a lot of build-up before The Purge actually happens, but in the meantime, when we're supposed to be getting to know the characters and setting a tone and all that, you have you think it's some horror scene when we see Lena Headey being followed, even though it's just the remote control car. And there's jump scares that are totally worthless.
Yeah, you can see them from a mile away.
And there were some where they were even misplaced. It's almost like it was out of sync. But
yeah, I could see that.
The son. Why am I drawing a blank on the son's name?
He looks like young Michael Myers.
Oh.
That's exactly what he looks like. Or Edward Furlong as a kid.
The son is sitting there, and he sees the bloody stranger on a monitor. Yeah, Ethan Hawke has 5 monitors in the basement of what's going on outside.
He's Mr. Security. He obviously wants to keep abreast of what's going on outside.
So the bloody stranger comes running up, and the kid sees him. And the kid sits up and leans forward when he sees him. Now, I talked about this in the last Exorcism review that you read.
Yeah.
Which was the jump scare where something happens and you have to have that really loud musical chord, for whatever reason. Because whatever's happening on the screen you don't think is scary enough. You have to play loud music in a quiet room to make people jump, to make them think they're scared of what you're showing them. The musical chord came in a weird place. It didn't come when the bloody stranger showed up on the monitor.
Nope.
And it didn't come when the kid saw him. It came when the kid saw him and then leaned forward.
So as if you lean forward right there, there should have been a musical sting right there. It's
or not at all,
I mean, that doesn't really need to be done. It's been done way too much anyway, especially nowadays.
Yeah, it's like, I love it's like that moment in the Rob Zombie's Halloween 2, that piece of shit, where, I think it was a Danielle Harris scene. She's standing here, and then Michael's, over here in the darkness. And I see Danielle Harris standing there in the doorway, and there's the really loud musical chord. And I was like, Gah! And then I was like, where is he? Oh, there he is.
You're not scared of the guy, you're scared of the music.
And he's just standing in the corner not doing anything.
Hi. I'll kill you, but I decided to take a nap here in this corner.
But anyway,
He just wants to relax.
Yeah, they abused the jump scare a few times, which disappoints me because in a movie like this, it was actually advertised quite a bit. The Purge is actually trying to be an action movie instead of a horror movie.
Yep.
So I was a little disappointed that a movie with this much potential that was billed as not being a horror movie abuses the jump scares as many times as it does.
Very true.
I used this example before, but I'll use it again since, like I said, the last time I made this reference, you were reading it in my words, but I can tell them now.
Yeah. Good.
Jump scares can work, but like once every 5 years. The last case was in Mama.
Yeah.
When Jessica Chastain and the girls are down here, and Mama's at the end of the hallway, and they're just looking at her, and because she's just kind of lingering there, and then just from out of fucking nowhere, she lunges at them, and it wasn't a musical chord. Like, really loud. It wasn't even a loud... She kind of roared, but it wasn't really the loudness that made you jump. It was watching Mama lunge for them that made you actually jump. You were actually afraid of what you were supposed to be afraid of instead of the goddamn score.
Well, if you want to talk about a score that actually was rather effective, I would go back to Sinister. Sinister's musical score was very effective.
Yeah, until the second half. The second half of Sinister gets bad with the jump scares. But
very true.
Regardless, this movie is still, I mean, it has those... You have to take major points off this movie because, number one, the big setup only used to do a remake of Straw Dogs.
Yeah.
That's kind of a letdown. But also, oh, shit. I lost what I was talking about. Which really sucks when you do the whole live and not editing thing.
Yeah, I know.
But yeah, oh yeah, there's even a fucking before it even goes into the Purge stuff, we're still just in the family stuff.
Mm-hmm.
They actually do the fucking close the refrigerator door, somebody's there, scared.
Yeah.
With the loud musical score.
And the boyfriend ends up in the house after it's closed. He's trying to surprise her, and he wants to confront Ethan Hawke face to face. And when he does, well,
yeah. Well, hold on. We'll talk about. That's another jump scare. Was we see the boyfriend leave, but then he obviously while they're eating dinner, he sneaks back in.
Yeah.
Into her room, Johnny Depp Skeetover style.
No lie.
And, the thing is, I mean, even if he was just, like, pranking her or whatever,
that was definitely Scream moments at the very beginning of that.
You know the jump scare's coming because she wants to, after she's done eating, she wants to go, after the house has been locked, she wants to go back up to her room.
By herself.
So she's got her headphones on and she's just sitting on the bed, calmly, and then, so even if this was a prank or whatever, the jump scare comes when a hand comes over her mouth and then pulls her down on the bed. But then, of course, it's just the boyfriend, and it's a loving hugging thing.
Yeah.
Well, if you're going to kind of surprise your girlfriend by saying, "Hey, I'm here. Let's make out on the bed."
Shut up.
Are you going to grab her by the mouth and slam her down on the bed?
Now, some people like that, but I'm pretty sure most of you don't.
Yeah. Well, that's a whole other story.
Exactly. No Rihanna talk here.
Yeah. She has.
We'll be we're referring to her, and this is the end next week.
Okay.
For like a split second.
But anyway, I would like to mention, I specifically wrote this down just because I thought it was awesome. I don't know if it was done on purpose or not, but I seriously doubt. I don't know why that was even a suggestion, but this was just really funny to me, and I don't know how many people are going to notice. It was kind of weird seeing Ethan Hawke clean shaven because he's not very often anymore.
No.
But the thing is he's really optimistic and happy-go-lucky for the first half of the movie. And there's not a smidgen of facial hair on him. And then suddenly, at the end, when he's gone all badass and he's just blowing away people left and right, he's just he's just magically grown a goatee.
He has a goatee, yeah, exactly. When did they film this movie? How much time came between the two? It's called
just funny.
continuity errors.
And you didn't even see his facial hair growing overnight.
No.
Because we see, there's not really a jump in time except at the very end when it cuts to, the next morning. But he just starts blowing away these people, and then suddenly in the next shot, it's like, in all his badassery, he grew a goatee. Every time he pulled the trigger, a little more started to come out.
That's like
for
it literally was.
that dropped.
Every body that drops a new piece of facial hair just sprung up on his face. I agree with that.
And he was almost Jake Hoyt looking by the end of it. That was his character on Training Day for people who were lost. But so yeah, overall, I liked the I'd say this was he put it the right way. He was on Kimmel. He was actually on Kimmel promoting Before Midnight, but this was brought up as an afterthought. And Ethan Hawke described this as a badass movie, and it was. I mean, the jump scares and wasting the concept are really, really, really bad flaws.
Oh yeah,
but. From judging what's there on the screen, it's still definitely worth checking out. Especially, even with the Straw Dogs ending, it's still, I'll watch any movie under any circumstance that's Ethan Hawke just blowing away people.
Very true.
He's one of those actors where no matter what he's in, he could be in, any movie of any genre with any script, and he's ready to go all out.
Very true.
It's how bad the Assault on Precinct 13 remake was. Mm-hmm. But there's that first scene where he's got his head shaved and he's supposed to be on coke and shit. Nice. That first scene of Assault on Precinct 13 is better than the whole movie plus the original movie. So if you're a big Ethan Hawke fan, this is definitely he's really doing well with the horror genre after this and Sinister.
Oh yeah.
Daybreakers was kind of a bust, but
not Daybreakers at all.
Between this and Sinister, if you put Ethan Hawke in your horror movie, you got a pretty good shot at being both successful both financially and effectively, and just get rid of the goddamn jump scares.
Well,
that was so disappointing about Sinister because they really, really played off genuine creepiness for the longest time in Sinister, and then just suddenly the second half delved into nothing but jump scares, and it was... They're more of a nuisance than anything else.
I've always hated jump scares, honestly. I think they're a crutch.
We got Insidious in September. I'll bet that's chock full of them. So
absolutely hated the first one.
The Conjuring is next month, I think.
Oh, great. And we got a trailer for that today.
So,
yeah, it wasn't very good either.
Yeah, Patrick Wilson
doing both movies.
Yeah, I noticed you looked at me confused because you were I think you thought it was the Insidious trailer. You're we're not supposed to have this.
I didn't put Insidious on there. I put The Conjuring.
You were far away, or else I was going to inform you. This is, I don't know how to pronounce it. I keep saying The Conjuring, but it might be The Conjuring.
I don't know. It could go either way.
I don't know what is what. But regardless, yeah,
really?
Patrick Wilson's trying to be Ethan Hawke, but who's that? Oh, that's
yes. I want to talk about him.
Yeah, the villain in this movie is a very tall, very distinguished blonde kid. He's pretty much a kid, really. I'm gonna be honest. I know you want to give a lot of credit to this guy
for probably different reasons than you would.
I'd have to say though, I mean, I know it would have been very similar to an obvious character, but you know what I was thinking the whole time watching this villain character? Can you imagine how awesome it would have been if he was played by Tom Hiddleston?
Yeah.
Trouble is, it would have been very, very Loki, but
yeah,
a much more psychotic Loki. But This guy, has he been in anything else?
Yeah, actually, he's in. I'm reading his filmography. If you guys were curious, he started off at in Home and Away, the show that was actually on the FX network when it first started, and he was in Sanctum in 2011.
Oh yeah.
And that's about it. Actually, after this, he really didn't have anything on the horizon. So yeah,
This might get him more work.
I think it will.
Now, granted, it might be typecast, but he'll be getting more work regardless.
I thought this guy was. I loved his the way he told exactly what he was going to do, and he was very polite about it too. He never once got really menacing at all.
That's what's really funny is obviously nobody has names except for the family.
Yeah,
and it's very interesting and ironic. But you know how the guy that comes running into the house is called the Bloody Stranger.
Yeah.
Apparently, the villain's name is the Polite Stranger.
Yeah. That's correct. Yeah, I love this guy's character. I mean, he's just so... Because he has, like, God knows how many people out with him, because we don't know exactly how many people are out there, because it seems like it varies.
We get that montage of, like, they're, like, on the swing, and the girl's, like, skipping, and it's really freaky.
Really Sherry Moon Zombie-like. That's what it reminded me of.
This was a lot more effective than a Rob Zombie movie.
But that's the vibe I got somewhat, too.
A current Rob Zombie movie.
Yeah. Hence why I brought that up from back in the day. No, it's one of those things that's like, I love this guy, and I think this guy would be like the greatest, like, promo artist in a wrestling company, because this guy is on point. I mean, he's one of the biggest heels that doesn't have to do anything in order to prove his point. He basically had all his minions do it for him. I mean, spoiler alert, he kills one of his best friends, like, right beside him, just because he got a little bit rowdier than he should have.
Yeah, that's not too much of a spoiler. It was basically to show Ethan Hawke that he'll just kill anybody. His exact line is, that man was my friend, and you're nothing to me, or something like that.
Yeah, exactly. Another thing, too, about this movie...
That was jarring, too, how he just fucking shot that guy. You don't
expect it at all. And you expect for the family to get their win at the end, to obviously... For the villains.
How far into spoiler territory are you going?
No, you expect this and everything, and that's what you expect with any movie like this. But I mean, there's different twists and turns it takes. Like, there's a lot of people that do the Purge that.
Well, I'll just say this.
Because I actually have a point I want to get to in a second.
One of my big criticisms was going to be, like, I gotta say this without giving anything away. So
okay.
I gotta try and say this as vaguely as possible.
I'm terrible when it comes to not spoiling things.
One of my big complaints while watching the movie most of the time was how much of a fucking dumbass this kid was.
Yeah.
The son.
I can see that.
Because he pretty much exists to do things that are going to get this family killed.
Yeah.
But it turns out that I can't really make that a criticism, because pretty much every stupid thing that the kid does, eventually...
There's a point to it.
Yeah. It may not have been totally stupid, I guess.
And another...
But it makes the... When you think the kid is doing something really stupid, there's actually a whole other problem.
Okay.
Is the only way I can think of it.
I gotcha.
So, you know.
And then...
The stupid things that the kid does is kind of superfluous to go into.
True. Well, there's two things I want to get into before I speak my piece here. Like I said, we don't know anything about any of the strangers whatsoever. That's the point, obviously. They're just basically out purging. And we don't know what this guy did. We don't know anything about him.
I think we're supposed to assume the reason they can't just say, you know what, let's just go kill somebody else, is maybe like...
Well, he killed one of them.
Yeah.
That's the reason why he gets targeted.
I was always under the impression that, they initially attacked him just because he was homeless.
That's exactly what it is.
And then he killed one of them in defense of them, right?
Yep, that's exactly what happened.
You know, the reason, there could be all kinds of reasons that they don't just say, well, let's just go find somebody else. That could be, maybe he, looked at him the wrong way or something.
Yep.
It's clearly this is planned. Behind closed doors, most likely there were plenty of conversations of, I think I know what I'm doing for the Purge. am targeting this specific person for this specific reason because they're eating away at me and they've been eating away at me all year.
Exactly.
But obviously we never can know that because
of course not.
The mystery of it is the freaky part. Like, you can complain about they didn't use the concept of the fullest.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's very interesting to not know what's going on out there.
Oh, absolutely.
You can just let your imagination run wild with God knows whatever it is.
And
so,
I mean, it works. I mean, the movie that part works for me. But another thing I want to talk about, it's just like it brings out people's true colors too. It's like you may not know who the person down the street. He may be completely insane, but only for that one night. And then after that, he'll mow your lawn for like $10. But I mean, you don't know that, and people are just trying to cleanse themselves. They use that term a lot in the movie. They're trying to cleanse themselves, trying to eliminate the hatred they have all around. So you have a bad day at work. Hey, let's kill someone in about 4 months. I mean, that's kind of insane, to be totally honest. But I guess it's how they control the population. Kill or be killed is survival of the fittest. And that's another thing I want to bring up. It's really, it comes very political.
Don't forget another thing is, we only focus on murder.
Yeah.
But another reason is, like they say, the economy's good.
Yeah, of course.
Unemployment's 1%. Don't forget, that also involves banks getting robbed and shit.
That's true.
So there's the movie only focuses on murder, but
yeah,
every crime is legal.
Yeah, but it's I don't want to see some guy embezzling $30,000. That's not enjoyable. But seeing some guy get beaten down in a street corner, I mean, apparently that's enjoyable. And are people watching this on television it's broadcast on their TV stations, or they just do highlights it's Sports Center or something?
I don't think it's broadcast. I think it's because
the opening montage made me think that it was broadcast. Here's some highlights from the Purge 2020. Because they mentioned that it happens 3 times a year, so I was wondering if they do highlights and stuff. I mean, this is the kind of society that watches this.
The only thing what I took it as is I think obviously we could see footage because Ethan Hawke has security monitors, but I think it was after they showed the what was it?
Huh?
They showed the thing with the blue screen that said
the emergency broadcasting system is basically what it was.
I think after that everything just shut off.
Yeah. It's you hear the air raid sirens, and then that's how you know the Purge is over. It's kind of like the Hunger Games. That's how you know it's over. But I know it's one thing really bad about this. There's a lot of people that were saying when they watched the movie that it's going to get into politics. And that it does. Basically saying that if you are not rich, and you are lower middle class to low class to homeless to any of those, you're screwed. Because these rich people, they have money, and they will buy guns, they will buy security, and pretty much anyone just gets mowed over. Like I said, survival of the fittest, or survival of the richest in this case.
You could have been afraid it was going to get overly political because the trailer ends with the Purge being written over the waving American flag.
And part of me, I think, was wanting to get a little bit more political than they did.
No, it's the whole, it's calling out America specifically.
Exactly.
All countries are violent to their own extent.
Oh, yeah.
Didn't they... Obviously, they're trying to say the Purge was a strictly American thing.
Yeah.
So,
it's there's not purges in, Canada, there's not purges in Japan, there's not purges in Mexico or anything like that.
Hopefully people are smart enough to believe that not all of us are crazy.
Yeah, no lie. But you never know who could be the crazy person, because I'm not going to tell anybody who it is or anything like that, but they do throw these, Purge parties, and the Purge parties are basically let's gang up together and kill people. And we never found out exactly who the strangers were, obviously. And I was thinking at one point they were actually going to end up being, people they actually knew. And it was going to be really calculated that that's the reason they were targeted. And they just threw that bloody stranger in idea just because they got lucky and someone was running from them and got away.
Yeah, it's not that complicated.
But they didn't go that direction. They went with something very simple, very easy to understand. That'll appeal to pretty much any demographic. I mean, I liked it overall, but it's got a lot of flaws. But it's good for what it is. It's, like you said, it's definitely worth watching.
So, yeah, but apparently everybody in the world is going to see this, so if you're watching this, you've probably already seen it anyway. So
You probably watched it last night, actually. It was airing at, like, some places as early as, like, 7 p.m. I know here it was at 10, and there was also at midnight in Athens, so.
See, they should have had marathons where they played it from 7 p.m. to 7 a.m.
That would have been great. And if this movie becomes a cult classic, I can see people actually doing that.
Which, you'd see it a lot because it's really short. It's an hour and 25 minutes, and that's with credits.
Yeah. All these Purge heads going, Purge! And then it starts again, and then after the movie's over, they go, Purge! And then it starts again. It's like you're not allowed to leave the bathroom for the next 7 hours.
People are killing each other in the theater, and nobody's caring.
Exactly, because everything's legal in that auditorium for just that 7 hours.
And then after the last showing, a siren goes off, and everybody just leaves quiet.
Well, I gotta go to work tomorrow.
Alright, we talked about the Purge for 36 minutes, so we can go on to the internship now.
Awesome.
Alright. Oh, no. Alright, negative word has gotten around on the internship.
Really?
For quite a while now, like the past week.
I haven't really heard anything.
Did you see the Onion news thing?
No.
Where, this was a big thing, but you know how the Onion does those fake newscasts?
Of course.
This is a newscast about how The Internship is the most anticipated movie of 2005.
That's hilarious, by the way.
It's like they have,
they're about right on the year.
Vince Vaughn and Owen Wilson, because we all loved Wedding Crashers.
Yep.
And it's like, they don't know how to work webcams. It's like, this will just be a great experience for the audience of 2005.
Wow. But we can't go back to 2005, now can we? Apparently they're trying to, but...
So yeah, this movie is exactly... There are no surprises to this movie. This movie is... Vince Vaughn, they both lose their jobs because... I suppose it's kind of funny that they sell watches and their product becomes obsolete because everybody checks the time on their phones now.
Of course.
So John Goodman packs his shit up and leaves, and they are broke. And so Vince Vaughn looks for jobs. He even Google searches jobs for people with no skills in anything.
Yeah.
And then he gets the idea to get a job at Google, but of course they have to do a job interview with BJ Novak, who has that one scene, and then the internship, which is the whole movie, and then they could possibly get a job at Google.
So even if they do intern, it's not a guarantee they're getting a job.
Even if they fuck around and act like idiots and don't belong at all,
they will still find a way to win that internship.
They might just get a job at Google. So, this was based off an idea that Vince Vaughn came up with, and Vince Vaughn actually wrote most of the script. But, I'm going to assume that there was a lot of straying from the script. Otherwise, Vince Vaughn is not a good writer, which... Vince Vaughn is funny enough to where I don't think he would be a bad writer, so...
No, probably not.
Plus, you know, being, like, best friends with somebody like Favreau.
Yeah, no lie.
Yeah. Those two, you know, can create, you know, funny shit. Can you imagine if this were a Von Favreau movie from, like, the late 90s?
Oh.
You know, if... Obviously not Google, but in another setting. This exact setup. Trouble is he brings in Owen Wilson.
Swingers get a job at IBM. That's what it would be in that case.
Yeah. Maybe this would have been better than Made.
It definitely could have been.
But, okay. This movie does have, you know, funny parts.
Yeah.
And some of the parts that are funny are actually really funny.
And not in the trailer, too.
Yeah, like, I actually had hope when there was a big laugh in the first scene when they were talking to the guy and they're just kind of bullshitting with him.
Yeah, that line.
And he says, they're talking about his daughter and how his daughter is like, you know, in 1 second his daughter's going to grow up and going to have a boyfriend, and then his daughter's going to grow up and be married, then his daughter's going to grow up and be like, you know, taking care of him, and when he's like out of it, and then
putting you in a home.
Yeah, and then there was just something really funny about the way the guy just laughs and goes, "Oh, it feels good to joke about Alzheimer's."
Yeah, that was a big laugh from the entire crowd.
And the John Goodman scene is funny.
Oh yeah. He's the only thing I enjoyed of The Hangover, to be honest.
But here's what happened. Okay, I don't hate this person personally. Maybe a little bit, I don't know.
I know where this is going.
I knew this movie was doomed when... Okay, you start off with two funny... You have a lot of negative word.
Yeah.
But then I was like, I don't care for Wedding Crashers. And everybody's just... Wedding Crashers was an obsession in 2004.
I remember that.
But then there's movies like The Watch.
Which should be, and are not.
Everybody hated The Watch, but I thought The Watch was hilarious.
The Watch is absolutely hilarious.
So I thought, well, maybe The Internship will be like The Watch. So we get two funny scenes in a row. That was a good start. But then we get the scene you see in the trailer where Vaughn's explaining what's going on, and almost gets all excited. He's like, "You gotta stop it." Trouble is, what you don't see in that scene is that Owen Wilson works at a mattress, like the place that sell mattresses, and his manager is a cameo by Will Ferrell.
Sporting a goatee and weird tribal tattoo.
Yeah, it's
Sanskrit.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it.
And this scene, like many scenes in this movie is like a 5 to 10 minute scene of Will Ferrell saying stupid, unfunny shit. And it just goes on and on. Much like Will Ferrell does nowadays. Just, literally every time you see, whether he's at an award show or he's on a talk show or whatever, Will Ferrell can just not shut off.
Mr. Trying Too Hard?
Saying Will Ferrell tries too hard is putting it really mildly.
The global champion of trying too hard?
He's always got to be doing some dumb shit, and it's really, really old. The last really funny thing Will Ferrell did was Talladega Nights, and believe it or not, Talladega Nights is 7 years old now.
It's still hilarious.
Yeah, but, it's like when he, to review for the internship, has turned into a hate Will Ferrell video.
And I don't hate Will Ferrell, for the record. He doesn't like him that much.
I thought it was really annoying when they kind of stole the thunder from Brett McKenzie's Oscar win. Because, of course, he and Galifianakis were presenting Song that year.
Mm.
And, of course, don't ask Will Ferrell to come to the Oscars unless he gets to do something really stupid and really not funny.
Yeah.
So they dragged that out for a long time. And Brett McKenzie winning an Oscar was kind of an afterthought of that whole moment. But, he just needs to go away for a while.
I think Anchorman will be fine.
I don't know.
I mean, that'll be him back with everybody, back with Keckner, and back with everyone.
But going on to the internship to make it, relevant, what I'm talking about.
This is relevant.
When I say Will Ferrell goes on and on and on, I almost believe a lot of scenes in this movie play out like a Will Ferrell sketch. By that I mean, I don't know how many people are really familiar with Inglourious Bastards. Inglourious Bastards is 2.5 hours long. 2 hours and 33 minutes, I think.
That sounds right.
Call me on it, I know the exact run times, go fuck yourself. Inglourious Bastards is 2 hours and 33 minutes.
Correct.
There's 8 scenes in that movie.
Yeah.
There's 8 scenes that are 25 minutes long each.
Yeah.
That's what the internship feels like. These scenes just go on and on, long past their death.
Yeah.
They try to drag jokes out for 10 minutes. This movie's 2 hours.
It's too long. It could have been wrapped up in an hour 30.
If that. It could have been the length of The Purge.
As I was saying, The Purge, it
could have been the length of The Purge without The Purge's credits.
Yeah.
But the scenes just go on, and they don't end. Especially this scene with Will Ferrell. It's like they wanted to... What's the point of a cameo? Ryan Reynolds and Ted. Mark Wahlberg is sitting there on the couch with Ted, and Patrick Warburton comes up, and he's dragging Ryan Reynolds by the hand.
Yeah.
Ryan Reynolds looks at them and smiles, and they walk away, and Ryan Reynolds doesn't say a word. That's what a cameo is. This was... I didn't check. I don't think Will Ferrell was even credited.
Jason Statham in Collateral comes to mind immediately.
Yeah, that's a
You
good
want to talk about a great cameo.
Statham was credited, though, in that.
Really? Did not know
He's
that.
an airport man.
Airport man. That's awesome.
But yeah, that's a good cameo, too.
Darn right it is.
The shit like this is not a cameo. Schwarzenegger in the...
Uncredited.
Schwarzenegger in the Rundown. That's a cameo.
Agreed.
But no... You know, you can't just bring Will Ferrell in for some cute cameo. He has to do some stupid-ass shtick for a really long time. And that's the way most of the scenes in this movie go. However, I give a lot of credit to it's kind of weird, because I sound like I hated this movie.
First we slap him, then we coddle him a bit.
I sound like I hated this movie, and I feel like I hated this movie. But there's actually enough really funny stuff in it to where it's not unbearable. If you can consider that a compliment.
Yeah.
The thing that was really, really painful was a lot of things, but let me just get this out of the way, because I just gotta... I don't normally talk when I'm in a movie theater, especially to myself, because I look like an insane person, but I was about ready to scream at this subplot.
I knew you were going there.
Do you remember the subplot on Wedding Crashers where the movie stopped being a comedy because they absolutely had to have that really long, drawn-out romance between
Isla Fisher.
Owen Wilson and Rachel McAdams?
Oh, that one, okay.
Yeah. No, Isla Fisher was actually, being part of the comedy. Being relevant to the goddamn point of the movie.
Yeah, good point.
Well, this is so much worse, because... Okay, I'll give Wedding Crashers the benefit of the doubt, because the plot of the movie is Owen Wilson and Vince Vaughn are these swingers, and their friendship gets bent out of shape when one of them falls in love.
Yep.
Okay, the love story is the plot. For no goddamn reason other than to make the movie longer and to give his character purpose and to have a generic love interest, because for some reason people just can't let that go. Like they say, I don't really like. I picture Vince Vaughn writing. I don't remember who the other guy was, but he wrote it with somebody. I picture them sitting at a computer, and one of them says, "Oh wait, we gotta have a love story," and the other guy says, "Why? It doesn't fit into this story at all, and there'd be no point to it at all. It would only make our script bloated." And the other guy would say, "Because that's what movies do. There's always a generic love interest. We can't be a movie without it.
Yeah.
We are a comedy. We exist to get laughs out of the audience. However, for some reason, we absolutely must have this unfunny love. Like, it doesn't even, I don't mean unfunny by it means, I mean, it tries to be funny and it fails. I mean, it's like scenes out of some romantic comedy that is not this movie." And they chose Rose Byrne, of all people.
It's like Parker.
They chose, the thing is Rose Byrne's getting a lot of acclaim, because she was just in, Place Beyond the Pines, and I think she was big on, I think it was Damages that she was on. But people love her now, especially in indie movies and, TV, but she is here to do absolutely nothing other than to serve as the generic love interest, and I always wonder what gets actresses to take parts like that, because they have nothing to do at all. They have nothing funny to say or do or anything. It's just to be somebody very attractive for your very unattractive male lead to be able to hook up with. And another thing that makes this plot really annoying is it's that same goddamn tired thing where he wants to be with the smart girl. But the trouble is she's busy, she has meetings. Every single time he sees her, she's on her way to a meeting, she can't talk, and she doesn't have time for him. And he's a goof-off, and she's, educated. So, she doesn't have time for him. She is all business. She is an independent woman. Well, obviously, despite all her independence and all her, I'm a smart woman that, works on my own. Obviously, if he follows her around enough and is, funny and quippy enough, she'll just fall right into his arms.
Yep.
Well, here's the thing is, at the beginning of the movie, she establishes that just after many times of being harassed, she could have, filed a suit against him, probably won it.
Because technically he was working there at the time, so...
But, she establishes that, the reason she's not going out with him is because she has spent 10 years with assholes.
Yep.
So, this is what happens. After harassing her for an hour of the movie, in tired, unfunny dialogue, she, for whatever the fuck reason, goes on a date with him.
Yep.
And he, does the thing where he pretends to be a douchebag. He is a douchebag to the waitress to get her number. He actually gets her number, and, that's hilarious. And, that's funny. They're on this date for 10 minutes. Let's assume this date lasted for 10 minutes, because it seems like it did.
Yeah, it does.
They get in a taxi. He makes her pay for the bill, too.
Yep.
That's supposed to be funny, but he might have... That's probably real. So they show up back at her place in a taxi, and she makes the taxi go away. And he's like, hey, that was my ride. And she's all, I know. And then she goes upstairs, and he's supposed to follow her. Okay. She avoided this for an hour of the movie.
Yep.
Because she dated assholes for 10 years. So finally, this guy who's been harassing her, she goes on a date with for 10 minutes. And that night, she fucks him. And then they live happily ever after. Thankfully, they didn't do the misunderstanding, separate ways thing. They're just happy and together for the rest of the movie.
Given the fact that...
What I mean by the rest of the movie is, after they go upstairs to her apartment, we never see her again until she shows up at the end to do the ending kiss. Just to show that everything is accomplished.
Which isn't that, fraternization? Given the fact they become interns and she's upper-level management?
Steve Monvey said that was against the rules.
Yes.
At the very beginning of the movie. That was a whole big thing.
Yes.
Well, I guess not. Because the movie had to have a happy ending. And for some reason, you have to have your happy ending end with a kiss. Because there's no other way to have a happy ending. Them getting the job. But, whatever. I don't know why Rose Byrne would devote her time to that. But, I think Rose Byrne's overrated, so I'll just say I don't know why any goddamn actress in the world would do that. Why didn't they just get Jennifer Aniston? This is all she does.
She's already got a movie coming out where she does something this year.
Yeah, the whole, I absolutely will not get naked on camera, but I sure as shit will come as close as possible. I'm not a whore or anything.
She's the new age Demi Moore.
Demi Moore was always naked.
Yeah.
And still to this day.
I guess I'm going with the striptease, connection.
Yeah. But, another thing that bothered me was the whole playing on the fact that they're old.
Yeah, that was kind of redundant.
Specifically, there are 5 references in this movie to Flashdance.
Yeah.
And, starting with, the soundtrack, and they talk about the water scene for 5 minutes.
It's even longer than in the trailer.
And the, for one reason, they bring up that, making obscure 80s references is what they say Vince Vaughn does. Well, number one, the only reference I heard him make to the 80s was Flashdance.
Yep.
And secondly, in what fucking universe is Flashdance obscure?
Yeah, no lie.
Every fucking buddy knows Flashdance.
Yeah?
You remember the, when Jimmy Kimmel did that first big fake trailer where he got all those actors together.
Yep.
And they did, you just see the silhouette and it's doing the maniac dance.
Mm.
And then they sit on the chair and they douse themselves in the water and then they look in the camera and it's fucking Christoph Waltz.
Pamela Anderson stole that for the opening of Barbed Wire, so yeah, you have to know what it is.
So yeah, everybody knows what Flashdance is, but for some reason the people in this movie don't. But that's the thing. Okay, let me back this up. This goes 2 ways.
Okay.
It's weird to me that the 20-somethings in the movie don't know what Flashdance is.
Yeah, no lie.
And it's weirder to me that the Vince Vaughn and Owen Wilson characters don't know what X-Men is.
Yeah.
okay, maybe they haven't seen the movies, but I would like to think pretty much anybody would know, you know, a bald guy in a wheelchair named Professor Xavier is a fictional character. Especially when his fucking action figure's sitting in the room.
Yeah, I don't think they picked up on that, though. Because
But
they're
they
old, remember? They don't know these things.
But then, you know, just whatever. And then that goes into this whole being a message thing about it. Basically, the whole movie is a message about how to look into the real world and not your phones all the time. But, you know, first off, this is the wrong movie to be sending messages.
Especially with the clientele that usually comes out to these type of movies.
And secondly, there's... Not only do they do that, but it's like... This movie's trying to send all kinds of messages. The main message, I think, is that one. But another one is the whole... Well, there's... Okay, how many messages are in this goddamn thing? There's the pay attention to the real world and not your technology message. Mm-hmm. There's the be yourself message.
Yep.
And there's the taking shots and taking chances thing. And all of these are punctuated by Vince Vaughn saying some inspirational sentence. And the funny thing is, it's not played for comedy. This movie tries to be serious when I give you these messages.
Yeah.
Towards the end, somebody finally makes a crack about all the supposed inspirational settings that Vaughn says throughout the movie. But by then, it's too fucking late.
Very true.
So, you know, like the scene where they're trying to get that one kid to open up, the really crabby kid. That kid was just annoying, and he's, like, that way for no reason.
Dylan O'Brien, his character, Stuart.
They're out by the Golden Gate Bridge, and they're looking, and they're just looking out, and he's, like, you know, saying, you know, see, this is all the world outside of your phone and all that, and all your computers, and then there's the really poignant moment where he says, hey, guys, let's just stay here and enjoy the view for another 5 minutes.
It's like Telegraph, basically.
And, another problem about the length. Okay. There's obviously a moment where Vince Vaughn really fucks up and almost costs them the competition.
Yep.
At about the runtime a normal movie like this would be ending, Vince Vaughn leaves the movie, and there's this whole other thing with him and Robert Riggle. And they have to go through another half hour of about realizing that, oh, you know, Vaughn was their optimist, and oh, they can't do this without him, and oh, they need him back. So Owen Wilson has to go out there. They have to, first they have to have their little breakup scene where Vaughn's on the bike, and you just fucking know that Owen Wilson's going to come up in another bike and try to convince him to not go. But of course, Vaughn goes, because, you know, we got to kill another half hour, when the movie could be ending right now.
Yeah.
But no, but anyway, he goes, and there's some dumb joke with Rob Riggle and old women. But then they convince Vaughn to come back, and we've just wasted time. And nothing funny happened in there, by the way.
No.
Fucking Rob Riggle showed up. You can tell nothing happened funny.
Trying to sell motorized scooters to, like, a nursing home.
But there are still a lot of funny things in this movie.
Yeah.
I thought it was kind of a little interesting that they played... Oh, yeah. I also got to go to that. There's a lot of padding with... You could make this a drinking game. I almost would go back and count if I could bear to sit through this again, but... How many times did they make a joke about Vince Vaughn's height?
It's pretty regular.
It was
throughout the script.
It was like the whole time.
Exactly.
Like they called him a tree, and they're always, you know, making references to.
They called him Big Man, because everybody calls someone Big Man in a movie nowadays.
Over half of the dialogue directed at Vince Vaughn was referencing his height in one way or another.
That's like it could have been reversed, and everything about Owen Wilson could have been about his nose.
Yeah.
But they didn't go that direction.
Careful, apparently that makes him self-conscious. Despite the fact that he joked about it in Drove a Taylor.
Yeah, Drove a Taylor is an awesome movie that not enough people saw.
When Alex Frost, like, kicked him in the face.
Yeah.
So, there are funny things, like, I found it interesting. I don't know if this is a thing, but, they play Quidditch.
Yeah.
On the ground.
Yeah, it's very weird.
Obviously on the ground.
It's very weird seeing Quidditch played with broomsticks and dodgeballs and volleyballs.
And this was actually fun to me. Like, the great thing about PG-13 comedies is, obviously when you're PG-13, you have one shot at using the F word.
That made me laugh hysterically.
You have to use it wisely. And this goes for any PG-13 movie. It's always great when a PG-13 movie uses that one F word to its absolute fullest. And I don't know if it was his it was a basic line. I don't know if it was his delivery or what it was, but this was just hilarious the way he said it. But obviously, at the end of Quidditch, you need the golden snitch.
Yep.
And the golden snitch is this guy dressed completely in gold, and he's got a tennis ball like in yellow, and it's like dangling off of his ass, and he comes running out in slow motion, and Owen Wilson just goes, "Who the fuck is this guy?"
And the entire theater just started laughing at the time that he said that too. It was a good usage of that F-bomb.
That almost tops "When the fuck did we get ice cream from the Ringer?"
Yeah, that's pretty hard to top.
But and let's talk about Max Minghella for a second.
Oh, please do, please do.
It's really funny that he's in this playing the part that he plays, because probably the only thing, obviously he is the son of Oscar-winning director Anthony Minghella, who's unfortunately dead, but he did, he won an Oscar for The English Patient, and he also did Cold Mountain and The Talented Mr. Ripley. He was like a big-ass deal.
Wow.
You might know Max Minghella as, he was the guy with the Winklevoss twins in The Social Network. He helped them get the site started. So it's funny that he's always working with big websites.
Yeah.
And being on the villain side.
So the Twitter movie coming out with him very soon.
Hold on, don't get mad at me, Winklevoss twins, if this comes into your possession. The way the movie portrays you is what I was talking about. I don't know anything.
It's all about Armie Hammer, not about the real people.
Yes.
There you go.
And Josh Pence, don't forget Josh Pence.
Yeah, Josh Pence, yes.
But his character has a lot of funny moments. Like the theater didn't really seem into him, but I don't know if it's you don't really see him in parts like this, or if it's thinking about the fact that he's the son of Anthony Minghella.
Yeah. But
he has a lot of funny scenes. Like there's a particular scene where I feel like it kind of like in, I hate to use this as a reference, but the scenes in movie 43 with Liev Schreiber and Naomi Watts, those scenes were only funny because they were Liev Schreiber and Naomi Watts. If they had been any other actors, it wouldn't have been funny.
Agreed.
I guess he just has a way with delivery. But
yeah.
It was when they were in front of the pizza place towards the end. This would not have been funny, and it would have been dragged out with anybody else's delivery, but it was just perfect the way he said it. They have this guy that he keeps ridiculing on their team that's a big fat kid. And he's just kind of, they're sitting outside the pizza place, and he turns and he says, "Hey, take your eyes off the pizza." And he just stares at him for a long time and just goes, "You are fat." "You are fat."
He has to emphasize the fact that the kid's fat.
Like, if it was his delivery that made it work. If that had been any other scene in the movie, it would have been dragged out.
The Nelly line I thought worked really well, too.
Yeah, he's in a sauna with, was it Vince Vaughn that was in the sauna with him?
Yeah.
They're in a bathhouse. He just randomly goes, "Whew, in the words of Nelly, it's getting hot in her."
We're the only ones that laughed. Pretty positive on that.
Because we're the only ones that remember that song.
Exactly.
Everybody else in the theater was either too old to remember it, or it was out before them.
It's funny, Todd in the Shadows did a video that I just watched this morning about Nelly, so it was fresh in my mind. It's funny that it came out during this review.
Yeah, so, yeah, there's, obviously, it's good for in-jokes, too. Like the scene where he's, going around looking for people to put on his team, and they have to be from a good college. Like, the kid starts to say University of, and he just...
Bye.
It's like, I think he has a bias towards Harvard.
He picks the one girl because she's good to look at.
But, so yeah, and there's a really, granted, it's a really, really clever end title sequence.
It's awesome.
Like, I don't even know how to explain it, but it's really interesting how
it utilizes Google to the fullest of its capabilities.
Just computers in general.
You'd want to obviously want to bring up. I don't know if you want to talk about the other members of the team or not. Like the other characters, see what you thought of them.
They weren't funny. They tried to be.
Yeah.
Like, there's the kid who was a clear ripoff of Kane from Grandma's Boy, the suicidal kid.
Yep.
Like, what was it? In Grandma's Boy, they were about to fail, and he says, I am a worthless asshole who deserves to die young.
Yeah.
He's got, like, he gets beaten by his mom, who homeschools him, and he punishes himself by ripping out his eyebrows, and by the end of the movie, like, this entire eyebrow's gone, and they make some joke about it being drawn in badly. The girl who's, like, into weird shit.
She's gorgeous. Straight up. Sorry, she just is.
They're pointless characters, there's no need to go into it.
I do want to mention somebody I know you don't like from a show you're very glad that got canceled.
Josh Gad.
Yes. He's very important in this movie, but you don't find that out until at the end.
No. He reminded me of something a lot funnier, which was when he talks about, it's from the trailer, it's when he says, Vaughn says, this is like teaching a kid the alphabet, and he says, no, it's like teaching a kid one letter. It just reminded me of the scene in Almost Heroes, when Matthew Perry is trying to teach the alphabet to Chris Farley.
Yes.
This is the uppercase A.
I never would have thought of that, but it's very true.
That's all I could think of during that.
That is awesome.
It's like, what was it? Was it the, it was the uppercase B, I think, that, like, drove him to insanity. So, yeah, you know, I don't like this movie, but, you know, if you're forced to sit through it, there's enough funny stuff in there where you might not rip your hair out of your head.
Or your eyebrows in this situation.
So, you know, go to the Purge instead, but you probably will anyway. I don't even need to tell you that.
That's the box office are saying already that's happening, so.
Yeah. So we'll go on to our last movie, which I really just needed a third movie to put in this video. This movie does not come out until June 28th, so I'm getting it to you ahead of time. The reason I was able to get it to you before June 28th is because this movie's been released pretty much anywhere except the U.S. right now.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that was the reason why.
Well, here's the thing, though, and this is really annoying. I hate it. I hate us. Literally us. I hate the U.S.
Yeah, exactly.
We, in the U.S., have a thing about titles where if we have a creative title, we gotta make it the blandest fucking thing in the world so people will see it. Exhibit A, The Hungry Rabbit Jumps. This was the title of a Nicolas Cage movie starring him and Guy Pearce. It's actually pretty good. It got really, really bad reviews.
I know where you're going with this, okay.
It got really, really bad reviews. But I thought it was pretty good. You know, by Nicolas Cage.
Are you referring to Drive Angry?
No.
Okay. I'm not sure what you're talking about.
Drive Angry's title was always Drive Angry.
Oh, I thought it had a different title.
So here's the thing. The title for the longest time was The Hungry Rabbit Jumps. But they didn't think that would sell in America. So what do they change the title to? Seeking Justice.
That's what their Seeking Justice was originally called?
Yes.
Oh, that's a horrible title.
The phrase The Hungry Rabbit Jumps is a big deal in the movie. So it would have been a nice title, but...
No, apparently not.
This movie, in everywhere but the U.S., is called Hummingbird.
I like that title.
Yeah, it's a good title. It looks cool on the poster, too.
Yeah.
But here in the U.S., what do we call it? Redemption.
Yeah! Straight to video DVD movie.
Despite the fact that we had, just last year, The Raid Redemption, and there's that TV movie starring Jamie Foxx that's a prison movie called Redemption, we gotta use the title again, because it sounds more audience-friendly than Hummingbird. Which, I don't think the title matters. I think if it says Hummingbird, people will go, oh, that sounds not interesting. But as long as you have Jason Statham with a gun on the cover, I don't think it matters.
No.
You know, because despite the fact that the movie has a title as fluttering as Hummingbird, this movie is an hour and a half of Jason Statham beating the shit out of people.
Which is what most of you guys seem to like.
Yes, but I gotta get used to calling it Redemption, because in the U.S. nobody will know what I'm talking about when I say Hummingbird.
Ashley knows what you're talking about right now.
So, this movie is kind of like, I guess Jason Statham every now and then. Don't get too excited, Statham fans, because this movie is most likely going to have a limited release when it comes out on June 28th. Like, in 2000, like, I don't know how these happen. Like, I don't know how this works with distributing, but I guess it just matters on which distributors get what. But Jason Statham is this massive draw. Like, Jason Statham does really well for the box office. For the most part. I mean, he doesn't, like... You know, he's not always in the number one spot or anything, but people will go watch him.
Yeah.
For him. Like, if you put him on a poster, people will go see that movie based only on that.
Exactly.
However, with this, there was also a movie in 2011 called Blitz that you probably don't even know what that is, do you?
No, never heard of it.
It was him and Aidan Gillen, and it was just a normal, you know, the cops are looking for a killer movie.
Okay.
And it actually, it's a little weird, but it's not bad. Like, Aidan Gillen's pretty cool, and he's a great villain. I mean, he's not the best actor. He's on Game of Thrones, and he was the CIA guy in The Dark Knight Rises. But, he was in, he's the villain in Shanghai Nights, and you know him because he's the villain in 12 Rounds.
Ah, yes.
But anyway, you know, check out Blitz if you want to. It's better than Redemption, which I will go into now. Let me start off by saying Redemption is executive produced by Joe Wright. The Joe Wright, the director of, director. I didn't mean to say it that way. Joe Wright is the director of Pride and Prejudice, Atonement, Hannah, and the newest Anna Karenina. He was the executive producer on this movie, and the writer-director of this movie is a guy named Stephen Knight. Do you know who Stephen Knight is?
No.
He wrote Eastern Promises.
Okay.
I didn't know this until I looked it up after I saw his name. Think about this for a minute.
Okay.
Stephen Knight wrote and directed this movie where Jason Statham beats the shit out of people for an hour and a half. He also wrote Eastern Promises, this critically acclaimed gangster movie directed by Cronenberg.
Okay.
This guy is the creator of Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. The original, like the British version before anybody else did it.
Oh my god, that's awesome.
So literally, this guy is the creator of Who Wants to Be a Millionaire.
Wow. I did not know that.
Yeah. Danny Boyle should kiss this guy's face.
Yeah.
Okay, so the plot. Finally, I can tell you the plot, and it would mean something because you don't know what it is ahead of time.
Nice.
He is a war veteran from Afghanistan, and he's kind of, you know, lost it. Like, he's got hallucinations and nightmares, and it's the absolute ex-war veteran cliche.
Of course.
There's actually a hilarious scene where what he does is he assumes people's identities and he lives in their houses.
Nice.
There's this hilarious scene where he, like, wakes up and he's in Afghanistan, but he's actually in this room. He's just in this little living room in this apartment, and he whips out this big-ass gun, and he just shoots the entire room up.
God.
But it turns out it's just a hallucination. He's, like, holding a bedpost or something. For some reason, that scene was funny. It was supposed to be serious, but...
That's still funny to me.
It was, yeah. I don't know. But anyway, and he's homeless now, so he lives, like, in this... When he's not, you know, assuming identities, and... You know, he's an alcoholic, and he's sick all the time. He's got the grungy hair that he had in Revolver, that Guy Ritchie movie that nobody saw. And he's always puking, and he lives out of this homeless shelter that's run by this nun. And get a load of this if you think this is weird. This nun that runs this homeless shelter becomes his love interest. But I'll get there in a minute. So what happens is, and he has these flashbacks of the war, and they're the same flashbacks over and over again. So finally, he gets tired of going into... He's also got, like, a daughter that he's, like, barely knows.
Okay.
So he goes into crime. His job is he meets this crime boss, and his job is to basically beat the shit out of people for this crime boss.
Yeah, okay, fair enough.
And he gets a shitload of money for it. So he starts funding, you know, stuff for the homeless shelter. You know, like buying them all kinds of shit and all kinds of food. He, like, buys them a shitload of pizza at one point. You know.
There you go.
And I'm not just confusing at the end of the Internship. 2 movies in a row where that happened.
Really?
So, so anyway, the trouble is it turns out that, his old girlfriend went missing.
Okay.
And it turns out that she was killed. She was murdered. So...
Redemption, get it?
So he goes on this rampage to track down who killed her and
Okay.
get revenge. Now notice how many things I said just now. This movie is an hour 35. You have the war veteran.
Mm-hmm.
You have he assumes people's identities.
Yep.
You have his love interest, the nun. You have the crime boss, and you have the dead girlfriend.
Okay.
That's a lot to pack in an hour and a half.
Yeah, very much so.
But, you know, this isn't a terrible movie, but it's very, in terms of Jason Statham movies, it's just below safe, I would say.
Interesting.
The movie from last year, you probably don't even remember.
Yeah.
He does so many movies now. It's like, he could have his own library. But I'll say about Redemption that I say about all his movies.
Okay.
Regardless of whether or not the movie's bad, Statham can bring it to a movie.
Oh, yeah.
Like, people just see him as this action star with a stone face all the time, and, you know, the stubble. But, you know, he's always, like, if you see the movie London, he can do, like, drama. He really can. He actually cries in this movie, I think. And, you know, he has the charisma, and he has, like, this really appealing, you know, way about him. Like, seeing him and Dwayne Johnson in Fast and Furious 7 is going to be a lot of likable personalities in one movie.
Absolutely.
Beating the shit out of each other. But, I don't know. There's just, like, there's actually a scene where he steals the guy's identity, and he's living in this really nice apartment. And these people come to the door that know the guy. And they're like, who are you? He's, like, not supposed to be here. So he improvises, and it's just... It seems like a cheap joke, but hearing with Statham doing it, it's... He says, oh, yes, I'm his boyfriend. One of them.
That's great. Thinking on your
He's
feet
like,
by Jason Statham.
He just lets me stay here, and you know, you could call him up, and he doesn't give me his number, you know, because he has so many of us. Like, seeing Statham go gay for a brief amount of time is...
That's funny. That just sounds funny.
An interesting thing to see, but... That's basically about it. There's some really, really awkward scenes, though.
Really?
Particularly, there's this girl, and I don't know how he knows her. I don't think it was the girlfriend. Maybe it was. I don't know. I didn't catch who this person was.
Okay.
But he's in a grocery store. And I don't know, they must have had a really bad past with this girl. But she's in the grocery store. We don't know who she is when we see her the first time. And she's just, you know, picking stuff up and, you know, being in a grocery store like a normal person does. Mm. And then he comes around the corner, and she sees him. And she just starts to pick things off the shelves and throw them at him.
Wow.
It's like, this was a massive altercation, right? Like, apparently this grocery store hasn't heard of You Break It, You Buy It, because she just stormed out afterwards. But she must have broken, like, half a shelf of shit throwing it at him.
Good God.
And then there's this scene, when you look at the rating, it says, like, strong, brutal violence and language and all that, and it says graphic nudity.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the graphic nudity is, he meets up with the nun, who has a whole backstory, but we see her out of the nun uniform, and of course, you know, she's gorgeous. So, she wants to meet up at this secret place where people won't see her or recognize her. So where do they go? They go to this art gallery. And this art gallery is just many, many different shapes and forms and sculptures and pictures of dicks.
It's like the super bad drawings to the nth degree.
They have this whole dialogue, and there's just this dick right behind them the whole scene.
Gee. And it's not supposed to be funny, but I'm guessing it was.
I'd say it probably was supposed to be funny.
Okay.
Because, of course, you know, where's the one place a nun's going to go and not be recognized? A place with a bunch of dicks. So,
I thought you were going with strip club, actually.
So, the thing about her is, apparently she's losing her faith. Like, we learned that her story is she was like a gymnast once when she was a little girl.
Okay.
And then she started getting molested by her instructor. And I think she said, like, he did it to me 14 times or something like that. And one day, she pulled out a pocket knife and cut his throat.
All right.
So they sent her to a convent.
Okay.
And naturally, she grew up to be a nun. So really, a nun has never been, her thing. That's just where her life took her. So, I guess in actuality, she's a Jason Statham love interest at heart, despite being a nun.
Wow.
So, it's actually got a good pace to it, despite having, because, you got all of this stuff in there.
That's a lot to cram into about an hour and a half.
But they split it up pretty well, and it's got a pretty good, going from one thing to the other.
Mm.
The nun story in altogether felt a little unnecessary.
Okay.
It could have made an hour 35 about an hour 20. With credits, that'd be like 85, so, But, whatever. I will say this now. Don't get the wrong idea, because this is not where I'm going with this.
Okay.
When Jason Statham does movies like this and Blitz, he reminds me a lot of Nicolas Cage.
Okay.
Because Cage does all these, action movies.
Yeah.
He's got 3 movies a year that are pretty much the same movie in a different setting with a slightly different plot.
And he's a little bit crazier in each movie, too.
But the thing is Nicolas Cage movies nowadays are like the best guilty pleasure you can possibly have.
Totally agreed.
Like, he rarely has... I think the last movie Nicolas Cage was in that I actually didn't think much of was Season of the Witch, which really wasn't... is another, I wouldn't call it a guilty pleasure because there's not much pleasure to it, but it's not, the train wreck. Well, it is the train wreck everybody says it is, but it's entertaining because of that.
Yeah.
Jason Statham movies, bad Jason Statham movies are like, Statham has some great movies, like, The Italian Job and all those.
Snatch.
Yes. Yeah, his Guy Ritchie movies.
Yes.
Revolver's not very good, but
No.
his other Guy Ritchie movies. I guess Collateral, if you want to count that.
Yeah, good times.
But anyway, Crank.
Yeah, Craig's awesome.
Not 2, for God's sake.
No.
1, definitely.
The part of Parker that doesn't involve Jennifer Lopez is pretty good.
Yeah, so these movies are just, they're bad.
Oh,
but
yeah.
they're not bad. Like, they're not boring. The action is pretty well, played. And they don't feel like a waste of time because, they're, like, fun. Like, I can really, like... I'm the kind of person where I hate movies that are, like, bad movies, but I can watch, like, some worthless Nicolas Cage action movies, like Stolen. And remember, I was the only person that remembered Stolen when The Call came out, because the first half of The Call is stolen completely.
Wow.
For whatever reason, I can totally find me and Nicolas Cage movies are like women in soap operas. I know how bad they are, but I can get caught up in them. I can go, oh shit, man, kill that guy.
There's a redeeming quality of seeing how angry he gets every 5 seconds.
There is no scene in Seeking Justice where a guy gets hit by a truck, and when I first saw that movie, you would have thought I just saw the most awesome fucking thing of all time. Holy shit, that dude got hit by a fucking truck! So, they're doing, people can say Cage is going down the toilet and all that.
No.
But, he's still having fun, and you can still have fun watching him. Here's the problem. This is the problem. All these people that bash Nicolas Cage's new movies don't watch them.
No.
Do you know everybody in the world will make fun of Nicolas Cage for these, but do you know anybody personally besides me that's seen Stolen and Seeking Justice and Season of the Witch?
No.
Yes. Serious. And Drive Angry, even. That was like...
Which I never got a chance to see, actually.
That's just like when Cage cleared up The Wicker Man.
Yeah.
It's like, you have this talent like Neil LaBute, and you have Cage, and it's like he finally cleared it up at a Q&A. I forget what, I think it was a Q&A for Drive Angry, and somebody brought up The Wicker Man, and because they asked, was that on purpose? And Cage said he thought he and Neil LaBute were making it painfully obvious that they were going for an absurdist comedic thing, like. Cage doesn't do that because he's a bad actor. He does that stuff because that's what he does.
Yeah.
It's like when he's telling that story about how he got mad at Werner Herzog on the set of Bad Lieutenant because he was getting really... Werner Herzog, the great director that he is, was trying to take Cage out of the movie because he had like this... It was like a milk powder or something as, cocaine.
Got it.
So he's, getting into character. But he didn't tell Werner Herzog what he had. He just had it on him. And Herzog came over and he's like, Nicholas, what is that? And what is that? And he's like... Cage got right up in Werner Herzog's face and said, "What do you think it is? It's coke!"
I see people call it movie cocaine.
Rest in peace, headphone users. I had to do my Nicolas Cage impression. And people who live in the house with you, I just woke the fuck up. So,
we created our own little meme video, like one of those things when all of a sudden you're trying to do that maze and all of a sudden you see Linda Blair scream at you. Human Giant review coming up very soon.
Yeah. So, That's about it. So, no, Redemption's not good, but, if you're a Statham fan, just watch it for the fuck of it. And Blitz, too. Make it a double feature for all you care. So, next week should be, this is the end of Man of Steel, I think.
That's what it sounds like, unless we get something from Athens. Or something online.
So, yeah, I don't think we have to worry about people putting up with my loud Nicolas Cage impression because I'm pretty sure people will turn off the video by now, so we're good.
Yeah.
So, people usually turn the video off by now, I'd say, so I'm just going to say goodbye to no one. And I'm just sitting here talking to myself now. So, that's that.